Alright guys, so the Havelock Wool is back. We're insulating the ceiling, and we're doing that by, we're just going to be ripping this into strips, and first we have to fill all of these little channels on the roof, and we don't have anything long with us to try and shove it up there, so we just taped these zip ties together, and hopefully that works well. Alright, so this looks a little bit messy, but instead of ripping it in strips, I actually just peeled off one of the layers, so you can see it's pretty thin. And I'm just going to take a bunch of it and kind of like ball it up in a line like this. And it actually squishes pretty well together if you just hold it long enough like that. I'll grab my tool. And then we're just going to go up. This might be a little too thick actually, but we'll try. So you just got to kind of feed it up there. Push it this way. This one, push it forward. So then that's what we'll have to do throughout all of these ribs. So it's going to take a little bit, and then we can get to attaching it with the panels here. Okay, so another method that I found, if you don't have something really long to go through all the way to get to the middle, is you can actually fit your fingers in between these openings. So if you just take a little chunk, and probably smaller than that, and just push it up there.
Sweet.
Take a few of them. And then if you grab a little bit like this, you can push it over. Alright, so we got this mold and mildew resistant string, and how we're going to attach the bats of wool to the ceiling is we're going to kind of do like a zigzag pattern back and forth in these little holes here, these ones, and go back and forth, and we're going to tie it loose, fill it with the bats like laying flat, and then we'll pull it tight once we have it to the right thickness. Alright guys, so last night when we were camping, our stuff's coming down in what we did, but we only got like a section and a half done. So we still have this whole part of the van to insulate. But right now we're just working on doing this kind of like weaving back and forth. There's these little holes that we're weaving through and then connecting it to that one there, and then at the end, once it's all completely pushed up and tied, then we'll untie this and just tie that part off. But all we're doing is insulating right now, and once that's done, we'll start the fern strips. Alright guys, so we just finished up stringing up all of this string that's going to hold the bats of wool, and now we're about to start insulating. So, let's do it.
That's the best way to clean all these little wool particles off of you. However, we're done playing with the ceiling as far as insulation is concerned, so now we get to put up the gosh darn furring strips.
You didn't grab them.
I didn't grab them yet, but I'm about to. Through the movie magic. Here they are. We have these furring strips.
We cut them.
We cut them to
But
size.
Okay, so we got 1x3 furring strips for the ceiling. They're a bit wider than these ribs, but we want that so it can help hold up the insulation where we need it, and also it has more surface area for the plywood to be attached to it for the ceiling. And then we got these self-tapping 1-inch screws, and that's what we're going to use to connect these to the ribs in the ceiling. So that's what you're going to see right now. Alright guys, so it's a new day. Today we're trying to tackle getting the ceiling parts ready for assembly tomorrow. Today while Lloyd was at work, I sanded a lot of lath and I sealed the plywood that we're going to be using for the ceiling, which wasn't very interesting, so I didn't film any of it. But right now we're working on measuring the plywood and cutting it, so then it'll be ready tomorrow for me to nail the lath to it. So that's what you're going to see. So these are the 2 sheets of plywood that we have measured out right now. We figured out that it'd be a lot easier if we would just make these the full sheets instead of like the floor how we did the sectioning in 4-foot sections. We realized that we couldn't really do that with the ceiling because of the distance of the furniture strips that are up here. So instead we kept the full, we kept it 4 feet and then just trimmed off whatever we didn't need from the 8 feet. So we have 1 sheet going from the front all the way up there by the headliner shelf to the middle of this stud, so it'd have support, and then the other sheet is the middle of this stud all the way to the very back. And then now we are just going to be measuring where the fans and lights are so we can cut those out, and then we can start putting the lath on and installing the ceiling. So this is our rough kind of layout of what the first front sheet will be. This is the cab right here, and this is the very back. So this is the fan cutout, and that's the light cutout. So let's do it. Our 2 holes measured right there, and Lloyd just made a small hole right there with the drill bit, and then now he's gonna start using the jigsaw to cut it. We got our 2 holes. This one is for the fan. This one's for the light. Let's see if we did it right. Okay, so we just finished up cutting the last few holes in this main piece, so we have both of them done. Now we just need to seal the other side, and the rest of the night we're going to work on sanding the lath, and we're going to install it tomorrow once the lath is on there. So basically we just did 2 big pieces in the middle, and then once those are fully installed, we'll go through the sides and cut kind of smaller pieces on each side because the roof is a little bit larger than 4 feet, so we're just going to worry about that tomorrow. So for the rest of the night, just sanding and sealing. Alright, we got 3 things left on our list. Finishing this up tomorrow morning, as well as this, and then once Lloyd gets off work, we'll install the ceiling. So I've been spending the whole day sanding a bunch of pieces of lath. These are only a few of them. And then, so for the rest of the day, we'll be working on attaching the pieces of lath to the plywood, and then staining, sealing, and hopefully installing it. So right now here, I've just set up a few pieces of the lath and lined them up so they're all kind of bowing the same way since the lath isn't perfectly straight. So I have them all going the same way so it still kind of looks like they're straight even though they're not going to be. And then we're going to be actually nailing them down this way, but it was just easier for me to line them up like this. And we're going to be spacing all of them out with these just little pieces of wood that we had cut left over. And we'll be lining them up like this. And then to space them perfectly out, we'll just put one in the front and then one at the end, and then we'll just keep moving along as we go. And then we'll be nailing them down on the top with 11 by 16 inch nails. I got a kind of gold color since we're going to be seeing them. I didn't want to get a silver since the stain is a little bit of a golden hue to it. It's going to be a natural wood stain, so I got these so it'll still look pretty even though it's not perfect. So we're going to go ahead and start nailing these down. Sorry that I didn't record this part, but it's still pretty sunny out, so it's a little hard to see what we're doing. But we got this whole first section done with a few boards, and this is what the nails look like. We put 4 nails on each board, one at each end, and then 2 in the middle, and we make sure to line them up so they kind of look somewhat uniform. But right now we're hitting the part where the fan is, so these strips that are going to go right here we have to trim, so we're going to do that, and then hopefully the sun will be down far enough so we can record that a little bit for you guys. So it's another day of working on the van, hopefully the last day of working on the ceiling. Last night Lloyd and I finished putting all of these pieces of lath on, so that's what you can see here. It looks really great. And this morning I'm going to work on staining it with this, not too sure, there we go, this natural wood finish stain, and I'm going to be using a paintbrush and wiping that off with some paper towel. So that's what I'm going to be working on this morning, letting that dry and sealing it, also letting that dry, and then we'll start working on the second main piece of the ceiling and hopefully get it all done and installed today. So here's to it. Alright guys, we have had a very long day today. I have been here for 7 hours.
Trooper.
I had a couple recruits come and help me. My sister and her boyfriend came to help quite a bit, and then Lloyd got off work early. He was able to help, and we finally finished nailing, staining, sealing the ceiling. So now we're just gonna wait for that all to dry. We're gonna go have some dinner, get out of the sun that we've been in all day, and we'll come back in a couple hours and get it installed. So we'll see you guys then. Alright guys, so we're back. The seal has dried, and Lloyd right now is gonna do a little final touches. We had the nails go through the other end of the plywood, so he's going to use the angle grinder right there and just get these ones off, because we got this acrylic sheet today from Home Depot that we're going to be putting over the holes for the lights to kind of diffuse the light, since it's a pretty strong, excruciating light that we have in the van right now. So this is going to help dim it a little bit, but we can't securely attach it with all those little notches there, so that's what Lloyd's going to start doing right now. Alright, so I'm going to use this 3M Super 77 adhesive that we also use to attach the, it's like glued on there. We also used it to attach the wool to the floor for the subfloor when we insulated it. So I'm just going to spray around the edge here, and so this acrylic piece, you can see this side is textured and this one is not, and we want the non-textured side to show up in the van, so we're going to be gluing it down upside down technically. And also there's going to be a stud right here where we're going to have to drill the plywood ceiling onto the framing strips that we already did, and we don't want to drill or screw through this because I think it might shatter like it did over here while we were trying to cut this piece. So we're actually going to be placing it just at the edge right here, so we make sure that that doesn't happen. So, and yes, this is really big and we don't need a piece this big, but it was very difficult to cut and break, so this is what we're dealing with since nobody's going to see it. So I'll just start spraying this. And I just went a little over on the edge here since there's so much excess on this side. So we're almost done with putting the ceiling up, but we've come to a dilemma here. Our wool is covering where we put that acrylic, so Lloyd is using a hook right now to pull the wood back, or the wool back, so it isn't covering that light.
So, even though we've never done this before, and we're learning constantly, I'm sure it's not the most sophisticated and technically squared away. However, it is solid enough for us, and we are learning along the way. That looks better already.
It looks great. So this is what it's supposed to look like. This is the back one here, and you can see how it's kind of, the light's in the middle there, and then it's dimmed on each side because obviously the light doesn't stretch that far. And this one is looking a lot more like it. We're just worried about the wool moving back as we move and drive and everything.
I pulled it pretty good, pretty tight, but there is still the possibility of it leaking back. For that reason, I'll just have this one on this beam, and it'll just be this one that we can pull out and then grab the hook again.
Okay.
It's a temporary solution, but it's such a pain in the ass to get these panels up in the first place, especially with two people who've never done it before.
Yep.
So that's just what we're gonna roll with. Honestly, it's not the end of the world because these lights, we probably won't even be running them that often.
Yeah.
That's just because they run off of the battery that is required for the start of the diesel engine. And I don't want to just run that leisurely, especially when you have these batteries on hand. We can get other lighting systems that'll look great as well. So
yeah, we don't have these ones hooked up to our Jackery battery down there, so we're not going to be running them that much.
Just when we're cleaning the van or need overhead lighting.
Yeah. Okay, so we got the ceiling installed, and now we have to cut the covers that go over the fan. So Lloyd is doing that right now. We cut off, or we might add just an inch right there. Start small, and then we'll measure it again, see how it fits. Keep going back and forth until it works. We have this first one in. We have 3 beautiful gold screws and 1 ugly ass cracked corner, the silver screw, because yeah, we couldn't really get it to work. So this is just how it's gonna be, and that's just our life, and we have accepted that. As we have said plenty of times,
Nobody's perfect.
we are not perfect.
This tape.
Yeah, there's tape on the fan too, because our fan came with some holes in the vent. So, on to the next.
There's that. Overcome and adapt.
Alright guys, so we officially finished the ceiling after working on it for about 5-6 days, I think. There's a few little things that we still need to do, but that will be later on in the road. So basically, as of now, we have a ceiling, which is extremely exciting. This is like the first actual thing that we've worked on that you're going to see in the van. Everything else is going to be covered up with something else, just foundational stuff. So this is extremely exciting for us. We got all the little decor kind of finishing pieces done also with the fans and the lights. So it looks really great. We really hope you enjoyed this video because a lot of work went into this week's video.
Absolutely.
So like and subscribe, comment, I don't know what else.
That's it.
Alright.
See you next week.
See you next week. Oh, it's so good. I think it's still going. What's up, guys? Still going. Jay doesn't know how to work a stop button.